The storm was unforgiving, a swirling vortex of rain and lightning that seemed to engulf the sky. Passengers on Flight 174 murmured nervously, gripping armrests, as the plane trembled under the pressure of the wind. Among them was Mia, a young travel photographer, returning home after a long assignment abroad. She had always loved flying, the feeling of being suspended in the sky, but tonight was different. Tonight, the air was thick with tension. As the turbulence worsened, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're experiencing severe weather conditions, but please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. We have everything under control." Mia looked out the window, her camera bag secured tightly under the seat in front of her. Flashes of lightning illuminated the dark clouds, creating a surreal painting of chaos and beauty. She tried to steady her breathing, focusing on the faint hum of the engines. It wasn't long before that hum became a roar, and the plane jolted violently. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling, and a chorus of gasps and cries filled the cabin. Panic spread like wildfire. Flight attendants moved quickly, trying to reassure passengers, but their own fear was evident. Mia's fingers gripped the armrest as she whispered a silent prayer. Then, a deafening sound filled the air, a metallic groan that signaled something was horribly wrong. The plane lurched, and the lights flickered before everything went black. When Mia opened her eyes, the world was silent except for the distant sound of waves crashing. The air smelled of salt and smoke, and her body ached as if she had been thrown against a wall. She sat up slowly, wincing at the sharp pain in her side. The remains of the plane were scattered along a stretch of beach, pieces of metal twisted and broken like discarded toys. Fires crackled in the wreckage, their orange glow a stark contrast to the pale dawn sky. "Hello?" Mia's voice was hoarse, barely audible above the sound of the waves. She pushed herself to her feet, stumbling toward the nearest piece of debris. "Is anyone there?" A faint groan caught her attention. She turned to see a man pinned beneath a piece of the fuselage. His face was pale, a gash on his forehead bleeding profusely. Without thinking, Mia ran to him, using all her strength to lift the debris just enough for him to crawl out. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. He nodded weakly, clutching his side. "I think so. Thank you." More voices began to call out, survivors emerging from the wreckage like ghosts. There weren't many, a handful of people, dazed and injured but alive. They huddled together, the reality of their situation sinking in. They were stranded on what appeared to be a deserted island, miles away from civilization. Days turned into weeks as the survivors worked together to build shelter and find food. Mia's skills as a photographer came in handy, her keen eye helping her spot edible plants and fresh water sources. The man she had saved, whose name was Jake, turned out to be a paramedic. He treated injuries and kept morale high with his easygoing nature. Despite their dire circumstances, the group began to bond. They shared stories around the makeshift fire, finding solace in each other's company. Mia learned that one of the passengers, an older woman named Ruth, had been traveling to meet her first grandchild. Another, a teenager named Liam, had been on his way to a music competition. Each story added depth to their little community, a reminder of the lives they had left behind. But survival was not without its challenges. Food was scarce, and the island's weather was unpredictable. A storm hit one night, destroying their shelters and washing away much of their supplies. Tempers flared, and the group's unity began to crack under the pressure. Mia found herself taking on a leadership role, her calm demeanor helping to mediate conflicts. She encouraged the group to rebuild, to keep going despite the odds. Jake became her closest ally, his unwavering optimism a source of strength for everyone. Together, they kept hope alive. One day, while exploring the island's rocky cliffs, Mia and Jake discovered a cave filled with strange markings. They appeared to be ancient, telling a story of a shipwrecked crew that had once inhabited the island. Among the artifacts was a weathered map, which seemed to indicate the location of a hidden cove. Excitement buzzed through the group as they realized the cove might hold resources or even a way off the island. The journey to the cove was treacherous, requiring the survivors to navigate dense jungle and steep terrain. Along the way, they faced dangers they hadn't anticipated: wild animals, poisonous plants, and the ever-present threat of injury. But their determination pushed them forward. When they finally reached the cove, they were met with a breathtaking sight. Crystal clear water sparkled in the sunlight, and in the distance, the remains of an old ship rested on the shore. Inside, they found supplies that had been preserved by time, tools, food rations, and even a working radio. Hope surged through the group as they sent out a distress signal, praying that someone would hear them. Days turned into weeks once more, but this time, they were filled with anticipation. Every day, the survivors took turns listening to the radio, hoping for a response. And then, one morning it came. A crackling voice, distorted but unmistakable, confirmed that help was on the way. As they waited, they reflected on their journey. Mia's role as a leader had transformed her. She had discovered a strength within herself she never knew existed. Jake, too, had changed, his once carefree demeanor tempered by the weight of responsibility. The survivors had become a family, bound together by their shared struggle. When the rescue team arrived, the survivors were overwhelmed with emotion. Tears flowed freely as they embraced, the weight of their ordeal finally lifting. As they boarded the rescue boat, Mia looked back at the island, a bittersweet feeling in her chest. It had been a place of hardship and loss, but also of resilience and connection. Back home, life slowly returned to normal. Mia's photos from the island, taken with a camera she had salvaged from the wreckage, became a testament to their journey. They were a reminder of what they had endured, and of the bonds they had formed in the face of adversity. Months later, Mia organized an exhibition to showcase the photos. Each image told a story: the first shelter they built, the scars of the storm, the markings in the cave, and the cove where hope had been reignited. The gallery was filled with visitors, many moved to tears by the narrative woven through the pictures. At the exhibition's closing night, Jake approached Mia. He had become a close friend, and they often reminisced about their time on the island. "You've turned something tragic into something beautiful," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Mia smiled, her eyes glistening. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us. We survived because we had each other." Their conversation was interrupted by Ruth, who was now holding her grandchild. She beamed as she showed the baby to Mia. "This little one wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of you," Ruth said. Liam, now a rising star in the music world, joined them with a guitar slung over his shoulder. He strummed,